For heroes proved in liberating strife.
Hello, Dr. Cliff Higgins here. On July 4th, 1776, 56 brave men got together and signed the most important document in American history. The utensil that they used to sign that document was one such as this. This is a feather quill pen, and I'm going to show you how to cut one and how to write with it. First of all, I'll show you an up-close view of this nib and how it is cut. I'll show you how to cut this in just a moment, but it's cut at an angle and there is a small slot cut in the nib. It's cut a lot like a modern day fountain pen, and when you write with it and press down, you can see those forks kind of spread out. That little slot funnels the ink to the tip of the nib, and it's held against the paper in this fashion. And as you dip it in the ink, capillary action brings the ink to the tip of the nib the entire time that you're writing. All right, here's how you write with one of these. The paper needs to be at about a 45-degree angle, because when you hold this pen against the paper, you don't want it on a flat surface. The ink would run down too quickly to the tip of the nib. But at about a 45-degree angle, the ink flows gently to the tip of the nib and allows you to write without the ink just flowing out onto the page and creating a large ink blot on the page. So I'll demonstrate how this flows. You just dip it about an inch, half an inch really, into the ink, and then just like so. As you can see, I'm moving right along with that. You can write pretty quickly with it. A few interesting things to note about the Declaration of Independence. Thomas Jefferson actually penned the document with a silver nib pen, but the 56 men who signed that document actually did sign with a feather quill pen. History has it that it was the feather of a goose, a major flight feather from the wing of a goose was used, but it was a feather quill. This came from a turkey. This feather actually came from a turkey that my son shot this past spring, and it's because of what those men did signing that document that gave us the freedoms in this country to be able to take up a shotgun and go to the woods and bring a turkey home and eat it and have other things to do with it too. So I'm very thankful that those men were brave enough to sign that document so that we can have the freedoms that we have in this country today. A few other interesting things about the document. The president of the Continental Congress at the time was John Hancock. He was the first man to sign the document. And when he signed the document, he signed his signature 6 times larger than anyone else who signed the document. And history states that just before he signed the document, he said, "I want Fat George to be able to read this without his spectacles." So, brave men. They were really facing treason charges by signing their name to that document. So when you hear someone ask you to sign your name and they say, put your John Hancock right here, you know where that old saying came from. It was because he signed his name so large on that document. Another thing I wanted to tell you about, when we cut these, I use a really fine scalpel blade. You can use an X-Acto knife, but throughout history, you may have heard the term penknife. And what that refers to is a knife with a very small, fine blade that was actually used to cut these nibs. And over time, as one of these feathers was used, the nib would wear down, and you could rehome the nib. You could shave off a little more, and that fine little slit that's cut in there was put in there with that penknife. So when you hear the term penknife, they're talking about a knife used on a pen feather. All right, I'm going to bring this camera in and do a close-up on how you cut one of these. All right. Goose feathers and turkey feathers work the best for these writing utensils because they have to be pretty tough and fairly large. To a small feather wouldn't work well because this shaft acts as an inkwell. So the first thing that you want to do, you're gonna make a slice down through here. You want to wind up having kind of an oval cut in this. So what I do first is just make a few slices, just like this. Now there's a membrane inside this feather that needs to be removed. And the way you do that is take a small wire or some type of small instrument. This is an old instrument that I have from my dental office. It works really well, but you want to get that out of there. What that reminds me of is a snake skin. I don't like snakes, but that's what that reminds me of. A small wire, you can bend a kind of a crook in the end of it. We'll do the same thing. I've used this on a lot of these feathers. Just a little wire to pull that out of there. And as I said earlier, you can vary the width of the nib. You don't want a sharp point. What you want to do is cut this off, and this is where you determine how wide you want that. Do you want a calligraphy pen or do you want a fine tip pen to write letters? Just cut the end like that. Hopefully you can see how that tip is. Then to make the ink channel slot, I'm going to cut a small slit right through here. Just going to take this knife and press down and pull, and that will cut it. Now that should write very well. That's what it does on the page to channel the ink to the tip of the nib. The Declaration of Independence of the United States of America is one of my favorite documents in all of history because it illustrates the bravery of our founding fathers. Every time I read it, I'm in awe of those great men who founded this great nation. I hope you have a wonderful 4th of July. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.
Who more than self our country loved, and mercy more than life. America, America.